I'm going to ask you to journey back to grade school with me for a moment. In second grade, my best friend was my neighbor, John. We'd wear the same comfy clothes day in and day out. And summer evenings, while our parents watched TV, we'd get mason jars, collect fireflies, and endlessly talk about whether we would actually die if we ate just one of the allegedly poisonous red berries that grew on his bushes. Those moments of soul dangling, so patient and free. You remember those days, right? Not every part of my life was as ideal, by the way. Like being an Iranian immigrant during the hostage crisis. Yeah, you're meeting the one and only Ayatollah Atoosa from James A. Deaver Elementary School. And not to brag, but in my prime, my leg hair would have rivaled any man in this room. Not a point of pride in my Long Island hometown. But I was a dreamer. I was going places. I wanted to be a rock star. Fast forward, Barnard College, 1993, graduation day. By then, I traded the rock star dreams of my childhood for fashion magazine glamour. I hauled ass at 2 different magazines, and I was that buttoned-up intern that hand wrote, "Nice to meet you, I'm graduating in June," to every single person I met in the industry. So excited for my next chapter, and I had a job, which was great. Except it was at American Health magazine. Don't get me wrong. It was a solid job with wonderful people, but I was a fashion girl. I was still that second grader inside who wanted to be a star. But at least I had a job. I needed that job. My mom put my siblings and me through college and grad school on $25,000 a year, so I couldn't afford to be picky. But on that day, fate had a different. Just after the commencement ceremony, cap and gown on, Bill, I got a phone call from 17 magazine. 10 minutes later, Cosmopolitan magazine. It was like divine intervention. I went on both interviews, got both jobs, ultimately ended up at Cosmo, and my life changed very quickly from there. Within 5 years, I became the youngest editor-in-chief in the over 100-year history of Hearst magazines when I created Cosmo Girl, a teen magazine, at age 26. Thank you. I also married a really lovely boy that adored me, and we had our love story memorialized in the New York Times vows column. A few years later, I was named editor-in-chief of 17. I was creator, executive producer, and star of my own MTV show. And you can imagine, head-to-toe designer clothes paid for by my clothing allowance, professional hair and makeup every day by celebrity stylists, car and driver in tow. But most importantly, I was good at my job. In short order, my team and I increased sales 25%, bringing 17 back to its coveted #1 spot. I got all the awards that go with that type of trajectory. 30 under 30, 40 under 40, Startup of the Year, my personal favorite. I was one of the 250 greatest graduates of Columbia University, number 122, not bad for Ayatollah Atoosa. My mentor, the legendary Helen Gurley Brown, wrote a book famously called Having It All. And I really did have it all. I was an influencer before it was a term. I had the doting husband, the house in the Hamptons, a seat at the Met Ball, endless positive media coverage. But all was not as it appeared. On the surface, I had all those external markers of success and happiness. I had it all. But inside, I had nothing. I was absolutely miserable. Despite the pretty picture, every internal indicator was flashing red. I was showing signs of agoraphobia. I was cheating on my husband. I had no bandwidth for family or friends outside the industry, for recreation, for joy. I worked every day except half-day Sundays. I gave my husband Sunday afternoons. So to the outside, I was an it girl. But behind the scenes, shit girl. Which is why, at the height of my career, I quit. Long before the Great Resignation, I retired at age 35. People often ask me, how did you do it? As though it took courage or strength. And although this was a life I dreamed of living forever, once I was in it, I stopped following my own compass, got seduced by success, and I just ignored all of my own needs. It was kind of like sitting in a jacuzzi, overlooking your dream life. And the water is getting hotter and hotter until it's boiling you alive. Getting out was the only option. Before that, I didn't know you could say no to success and opportunity. It's like not moving forward in your car when you get a green light. But there was a day, just as I was about to sign my latest contract, that my husband, a trader, made exactly as much money in one day as I made in a whole year, which is a lot. Nothing like that had ever happened before or after. I told him, I need to stop. Can I stop for a year? And that, my friends, was the last stroke of divine intervention in my career. I believe his good luck and generosity, and yes, our privilege, saved my life. I was the lucky lobster that got out of the pot. Sadly, along the way, I had sold this toxic you go girl culture to an entire generation, both by example, if I can do it, you can do it too, and more explicitly through success in career-based content that we jammed both magazines with. How much of my disease did I infect my young readers with before disappearing to deal with my burnout, only to reappear now as they're dealing with theirs? But I was so burnt out, I didn't even look back. I totally cocooned. I had 3 children, and that 1 year off turned into a 13-year sabbatical, complete psychological and spiritual excavation of my inner life. 13 years. The amount of time in the Jewish faith that takes for a girl to become a woman. And there was a lot in my emotional backpack from childhood that I don't want to gloss over. I'm a survivor of incest. I struggled with codependence and lifelong feelings of fear and worthlessness, all of it fueling my thirst for affirmation. And I don't want to underplay what might be in your emotional backpack. How we feel in our day-to-day isn't just about what we experience during those days at work or otherwise. A lot of people, myself included when I was working, think that you can just bury the past and move on. But I learned that we unconsciously carry all of our unprocessed adverse childhood experiences around with us like a boulder, and that heavy backpack goes where we go. So for me, I needed therapeutic support to go from being that girl to this woman. And slowly over time, the warning signs started to quiet. I worked on my marriage, rebuilt lifelong relationships with family and friends, and most importantly, the relationship with myself. I remembered, I don't like to hustle. I like to saunter. And I don't need to perform, not for my family, not for social media, because I'm not on stage, even when I am on stage. The pursuit of being special is toxic because my value doesn't come from my job or my status or how many followers I have, but from the intrinsic value that I share with every single one of you. Belonging is our birthright. You don't have to lean in to be worthy. And I didn't need to leave my job to learn all of this. Perhaps the great resignation is merely an invitation to resign from trying to earn our self-worth through our output. Today, at age 50, I come to you no longer an it girl. I'm getting divorced from my husband, to whom I'll be forever grateful. And I hope to be of service again to my now grown-up audience. In some ways, my future is as uncertain as it was in second grade. Most days between mothering and writing, you can find me in Central Park with my best friend David, going on long walks, talking endlessly about life, and letting our souls dangle. Turns out, like you, I was born special, so it's been quite a relief to stop chasing it. And so for the first time as a grown-up, I have finally touched peace, joy, and freedom. My fellow life voyagers, I wish the same for you. It's never too late to reset your compass, this time heading for your own true north. Thank you so much.